How's everybody doing? So, I'd like to first of all make sure that you guys can see us, hear us, and that we're talking to someone on the other side. So, to the right of your screen, there's a little chat space there. Those of you who've done this with me before probably know the drill. Here we go. Great, Kim. Yeah, I just need to get awesome, Sai. Just to kind of make sure that everybody can hear us and see us. And then, if you don't mind, I'd like to see where you are guys from. Because one of the most fun things is to kind of see people from all over the world. So, anybody who's hearing us now, we have a few more minutes to start, but just thought we'll jump in and test the water.
Oh. Wow.
All right, Guatemala. Wow, that must be fun. West Hollywood, Virginia. Awesome. People keep coming up, so probably have some other interesting places in the world. Cool.
Romania.
See, that's why I like doing it. I always get shocked by, how many people from all these different places. Okay, so I'm in New York. And Shannon, where are you?
Boston.
So we're on the East Coast, where it's sort of, is it raining near you? Or
no, but I was in New York yesterday for like 24 hours, and it poured the whole time I was there. It's sunny here, so I'm happy to be back.
It's sort of, the weather is fine. It's not as sunny as I was like for it to be. It's sort of cloudy, but definitely hot and humid.
Oh my God,
I guess
so
the same
humid.
in Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think I'm gonna start by kind of, for those of you who are new, if anybody else here is new, just kind of walk you through the platform and the layout and sort of what we're doing today. So a few things about the screen that you see, so you'll know how to communicate with us and with yourself, and how this whole thing is going to work. Like I said, on the right, there's a chat space where you guys can communicate. Shannon and I might or might not be able to catch everything that you write there, just because we're probably going to be involved in a fun conversation. So you can communicate with yourself. You can put stuff out there. I will try and sort of look at it. Underneath the screen, underneath our videos, there's a couple of buttons that you guys should pay attention to. One of them, which I think would be the most important for you, is ask a question. So throughout the call, if any of you has any question that you would like to ask us, at the end of the interview, presentation, the call, whatever you want to call it, we'll dedicate a few minutes for questions from you guys. So please, throughout the call, just type your question there, and we will look at it. The other cool, fun part about this platform that I like is that those who didn't ask question, I will also ask you to look at the questions every once in a while, because there's a way for you to rate the question. This way we kind of get an idea of what are the questions that a lot of people sort of have in mind. But the idea is really to give you, as much as we can, help with that specific subject that Shannon is an expert in. Hawaii, awesome. Sharon, I have a call with you later, right? That's the fun part, is that, I recognize a lot of the names and I kind of know, okay, sort of where they are and what they're doing. But anyway, so Shannon, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. You guys ready? Awesome. So today's subject is, what's the subject today? It is how to launch a fully funded Kickstarter campaign. I'm Boaz David. I'm the co-founder of, why co-founder? I'm the founder.
I was going to say, who's your business partner?
I guess, my wife. she's my business partner.
Yeah, in life. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess I tag her along even without her knowing.
Good man.
I'm the founder of Human Bee, and a few words about what we do, just for those of you who are new, haven't listened to me and don't know who I am. We basically fashion business consulting company that provide mostly services on the product end. So anything that has to do with design, development, and production. We run the whole product cycle for fashion brands. Many of them are maybe listening now. Some of them are not, maybe in the future. But stages of company kind of goes from like early stages to more established. We have sourcing capabilities, quite frankly, globally, whether New York, India, China, Dominican Republic, other places. And we love working with entrepreneurs, fashion entrepreneurs, because that's really where we specialize, and it's a lot of fun for us. I do these webinars sort of on a monthly basis to really kind of offer tools for anybody out there who's sort of in that space where they're new to the industry. They might be just taking their first steps, trying to figure out if they want to be in this industry, what they want to do. The idea is just to kind of round you with a lot of other information. And what I tried to bring on is other experts like my guest today who can kind of like go into a subject and enlighten us about it. So Shannon, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to do this. I love talking about crowdfunding. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I'm going to let Shannon introduce herself because it's probably going to be better than me doing it. Shannon, you want to tell us about yourself and sort of like a little bit where you come from and what you do?
Yeah. So hi guys, I'm Shannon Lohr. I run a company called Factory 45. It's a 6-month online program that takes sustainable fashion companies from idea to launch. So that's what I mainly do. But on the side, I have another course called the Crowdfunding Factory, which is what we're going to talk about today. And it's all about taking you from idea stage to launching a fully funded Kickstarter campaign or another type of crowdfunding campaign, which we'll talk about. There are a few different ones that I like as in addition to Kickstarter. But yeah, I truly, truly believe that crowdfunding is the best way for new brands to launch if you don't have capital up front, and kind of even if you do have capital up front, and I'll talk about that more. But I started out, I had a sustainable fashion brand in 2011. We launched with the highest funded fashion Kickstarter campaign in Kickstarter history. It's since been, our goal has since been blown out of the water. But at the time, we set that record, which was very exciting. And through that, I learned what it takes to create, to raise money to go into production with the help of crowdfunding.
That's awesome. I didn't know that about your first, I guess, crowdfunding company. That's awesome. Oh, that's cool. See, I love when someone is kind of helping people when they had the experience of going through this.
Yes. Because
it's really, it's a different type of knowledge and experience. That's cool. I didn't know that.
I've very much been in the trenches like everyone probably is right now.
Exactly.
And so, yes, I very much speak from experience of doing it myself, not just what you should do, but what I did that worked for me, and also what I did that did not work, and don't do it. And we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, I keep telling designers that we work with that they're lucky that I failed throughout my career, different things that I did, because now I can kind of tell them what worked and didn't work for me.
So valuable.
But that's awesome. All right, so let me ask you a little bit. And first of all, a couple of words about Factory 45. So within this company, you really sort of like holding designers' hands through the process of launching their project, right?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Through that 6-month program, yes.
That's awesome. So you're not just don't only have the experience of crowdfunding, but really kind of going backward into the stage that a lot of you guys designers are probably in, a lot of stages that we work with designers, where you just sort of have an idea and trying to put everything together to launch this. So Shannon here been through this and kind of walking other people through it. So listen to a lot of the things that she says.
Thank you.
So your crowdfunding service sort of focuses on Kickstarter, right? Or sort of like highlighting Kickstarter maybe more than other crowdfunding platforms. Can you kind of share with us sort of why?
Sure. So I have a course. It's called the Crowdfunding Factory. It's a self-study course that you have lifetime access to. You go through it on your own, but it really walks you from idea stage to launching a fully funded Kickstarter campaign. I have a money-back guarantee. So if you don't successfully reach your goal, I will give you the money back on the course. That's how confident I am in that this works. So I do highlight Kickstarter mainly because it's the most well-known. There's definitely still people who are not familiar with crowdfunding, have never heard of the word Kickstarter before, but there are other platforms. One is I Fund Women. That's particularly for women entrepreneurs who want to do crowdfunding. And then there's Indiegogo. So I would say those three are the most popular, but the course can pertain to any crowdfunding platform. It's just Kickstarter's the one that's most familiar.
That's awesome. And for any of you who wants to find out more about her course and all her services that kind of goes to crowdfunding, under our screen there's a green button that will take you there. You can find some more information about it. So let's try to maybe focus on Kickstarter a little bit, just because I think it is the main one. Yeah. And just because we have a short time, it might be useful to kind of focus on one and kind of get information about this. So can you give us a couple of kind of highlight points of how Kickstarter works?
So Kickstarter can work differently for all different types of products. But when we talk about a fashion product, it is a method of pre-selling your collection or one signature piece to an audience that will essentially finance your first production run for you. So they are pre-ordering your product and you're getting the money up front to go into production. And the great thing about that is that you don't have to risk your own savings. You don't have to purchase a bunch of inventory up front that you don't know is going to sell and could sit in your basement. And it's also a great way to market your product and see, test with the audience. Is your product something that people want? Is it something that people will buy? Should I keep going or?
Yeah, share whatever you want to share with us.
Well, that's the general. I just don't want. I know it can get sort of foggy. Like you hear,
sure.
Finance your first production run. Pre-orders. But that's the general. We can kind of talk more specifically about all of that.
Let me ask you something, because my thoughts about Kickstarter, or actually I would say crowdfunding in general, is that it's a theory that I came up with. I could be wrong. You're the expert. Tell me if I'm off, because I am sort of communicating this with a lot of designers, is that I personally think that a campaign would work a lot better if you're sort of focusing on, let's say, one item or one idea rather than, and I'll give you an example. For example, if I have a specific shirt that solves a specific problem, even if I kind of have a whole line of other items there, my personal feeling is that if I would do a crowdfunding campaign, it'll be a lot more successful. I have better success rate if I'm going with one item, pushing that idea, focusing on this rather than my whole collection. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you as well?
Totally. So that is one way to do it for sure. That's how I did it when I launched my brand. We just launched a signature piece and did it on Kickstarter. But now, I've worked with many brands who launch full collections. Okay. I'm not talking about 12 pieces on Kickstarter. I'm talking about a capsule collection of 3 to 7 pieces that you can have at different reward tiers. So you can have a $50 price point, a $65 price point, a $75 price point, and those are the rewards that you're pre-selling. So yes, signature products work great, but also small collections can work really well too.
Interesting. Talking about price point, did you find that there's maybe, sort of like a price range that works better, or a certain price point that you would say, you know what, that might not work?
Yes. So $75 to $80 seems to be the average sweet spot for, that's like the average amount. But I would say you really don't want to go over the 200 to 300 price point unless it's something like outerwear or like a backpack or some sort of something. Like basically you just have to think of it, would you buy this in a store for the same price? Would you buy this online for the same price? You can't really have it be more expensive because you're on Kickstarter. It really needs to align with a price point that is competitive.
Cool. Do you think that, for example, if I'm launching a campaign like that, do you even recommend that if let's say my price point in retail is meant to be, let's say, for the sake of example, $120, would you recommend that I will go down when I do Kickstarter and kind of offer it in a promotional price for that campaign, or kind of stay with what the market will basically sell it later on?
You can. A lot of people will offer early bird pricing. So that is a way to get people to pre-order early in your campaign because you're offering, let's say, $20 off or however much. But yeah, it depends. It really just depends on the product. But any way you can incentivize is always a good thing.
Cool. Is there, by the way, from the Kickstarter platform? Let me ask actually something else.
Okay.
Me as the brand, I set up the goals, right? It's not something that's being determined by Kickstarter. Like I can decide that my goal is going to be $10,000, $30,000, $100,000, whatever it is.
You decide the goal and you decide the amount of time that the campaign will last.
That was my other question. Mm-hmm. Okay. And is there sort of like a minimum amount that Kickstarter would want you to reach, or I can do $50?
Well, so that's the thing, is you would never want to do $50 because you're funding your first production run. Like that's the goal. So your goal amount, whether it's $10,000 or $20,000, needs to be based on your product costing and your cost of goods sold and your minimums for production. So that's what this is all about. And that's why sometimes people ask me, like Indiegogo, for example, you can do, it's all or nothing funding versus you just get all the money even if you don't reach your goal. And I always say do all or nothing funding. Otherwise, you could be stuck with having to produce, let's say, I don't know, 20 units, but you couldn't find a production partner, or your production partner wouldn't produce 20 units because they have a minimum of 100 units or whatever. Right. So that's why I always recommend all or nothing funding.
Got you. So is Kickstarter sort of all or nothing?
Kickstarter is only all or nothing.
Okay. So in other words, just so to make sure that other people will understand, if I made my goals throughout the campaign, being funded, and if not, sort of like going back to zero?
Yeah, and I think, people can get really scared of failing. Obviously, you've put in all this work, but it's also, not the worst thing, because then you haven't invested $20,000 of your own money trying to produce something and then not being able to sell it. You at least know, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board. I'm either going after the wrong audience, the wrong target market, or my price point is too high, or something's not connecting between the design and my branding, whatever it may be. Or you can abandon it altogether and start on a new company.
Cool. No, I mean, I I think that's the part that I really love about it, is that it gives you the opportunity to test the market and at a minimal cost.
Yep.
You know, many times this first season of every brand, every business basically, is sort of like a test run.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that here you get a platform that lets you test before you even committed to production. You might, just like you said, you might drop the whole idea if there's not enough respond to it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Or you might get great feedback from it and approve it, and you know that will be what you needed to get a campaign.
Exactly.
Would you recommend, if let's say I had a campaign that wasn't successful, but I kind of learned a lot, to go back at it with a new product?
Yeah.
Or my adjusted product?
Oh yeah, I've seen people do that. You know, I'll see, trying to think, I don't have an example because all my students fund the first time.
That's awesome. That's the best example.
No, I mean, that definitely happens, and there's no shame in that. And the great thing is, like, with Kickstarter, you don't even have to wait. If you see that you're not getting very much traction and you're not going to reach your goal, you can cancel your campaign instead of letting it run out and failing. So that way, like, if you were to go back later and do another campaign, someone's just going to see that you canceled your first campaign. They're not going to see it was failed. And that's a great thing.
Awesome. So, since you only have success stories under your belt, can you share with us really sort of like the main things that can make a success story in a campaign like that? Like, what do I need? So
some people are under the impression that they're going to put their campaign on Kickstarter, click that launch button, and then all these random people are going to just flood to their campaign page and just give them money. And that is not how it works at all. You really cannot rely on Kickstarter to do your marketing for you. You have to have a marketing strategy. I would say 75% of the upfront work with creating a Kickstarter is your marketing beforehand. Will people randomly find your campaign? Sure, but you can't rely on that. So that is the number one thing. And I know marketing is like a huge topic, which we could
have a whole day about
yes.
it. Yeah. So do Kickstarter, the platform itself, support that, or is really sort of like all of that pushing and talking and creating the buzz around it is up to me as the brand?
It's really up to you as the brand, especially in the beginning, because if you do get a lot of traction, let's say you fund 1/3 of your goal in the first 24 hours, then the algorithms sort of highlight you to the Kickstarter staff, and they see that you are a brand making early traction. And that's when you'll appear on the front page of the fashion category. Or if you're lucky enough, this is what happened to us when we did our campaign. Again, this was in 2011, but we got featured in the Kickstarter newsletter that goes out every Wednesday to millions of people. So things like that, that's why early traction is just so important, but it's up to you to get that early traction. And then Kickstarter then sort of can help you like get the ball rolling, but it starts with you.
So sort of like, you know, if you create the right momentum from the get-go, they're sort of like tap into it and, you know, add whatever tools they can into it.
Yeah, in terms of just like traffic and reach and sort of bumping you up and highlighting you.
Got you. What would be a couple of suggestions to drive traffic to a campaign?
So the number one thing is to build your email list. And anyone, I say this is like become my mantra because I think it's so important. Your email list is the key to whether you're doing crowdfunding or if you're just selling on your own e-commerce store or if you're doing pop-up shops or across the country, wherever. Your email list is your way of communicating with your potential customer. And so, you know, some people may hear like the money is in the list. That means that you're not going to have to pay to, well, that's not what it means. What it means is that that's where the sales are coming from. But it also means that, you know, Instagram is making you pay to reach your audience now. Facebook has long been making you pay. Your email list is always going to be available to you to talk to your audience, and you're never going to have to pay to reach them. And so yeah, your email list, that is the number one focus.
I love that, because I think, anybody who worked with me, any of the designers who are listening now, it's really one of the first things that I say.
Yes.
That mailing list is really one of the most important things for you to have, honestly, even before you have an idea.
Yep.
Solidified in your head. Because when you have that, now you own that dialogue with your customer.
Yes.
It's one of the things that I didn't like when I had my brand, and it was sold through wholesale, and was really sort of like, in my opinion, it was sort of the end of wholesale. What I didn't like is that I didn't know my customer. Like I didn't have any relationship with her. It was women's, because the retailers own that relationship.
Yep.
The customer went into the store because they knew the store and bought from that store. And if tomorrow that store didn't buy from me, the customer that bought from that store, I don't know where to find them, and I can't get to them.
Yep.
If you build that mailing list, it's absolutely where your money is, because whatever it is that you decide to do with your brand, however you're going to decide to go to the next step, whether you'll do crowdfunding, whether you'll sell direct to customer, whatever it is absolutely one of the first things that I preach for. So I love that you're sort of on the same mindset.
Absolutely.
So I have a couple of questions here. So from your perspective, what are like the one thing that you really want to have in place is build? I mean, to make it successful would be really building that audience pre-sale, pre-campaign.
Yes. Yeah, you have to build your audience up front. You have to have a lot of audience to launch to. I say you don't want to launch to crickets, because if you haven't built up an email list, a social media following, and I'm not talking about 10,000 Instagram followers. I'm talking about, 500 Instagram followers who care about what you're doing and are engaging with you. I would so much rather, same with your email list, I would so much rather have 200 people on your email list who open all of your emails and are so excited and engage and reply to your emails than 2,000 people on your list who never open your emails. So the customer up front the audience up front is so important.
Very much. So it's really, absolutely, the idea is, quality of fans rather than just quantity. Shannon, we lost the picture, your video, but for some reason, or at least I can't see you, but I can hear you. So that's fine. Cool. So is there like a couple ideas of the, from your experience that that can help you build this pre-mailing list? And also, is there sort of like a timeline that you would say, hey, I would give maybe 3 months, 6 months, whatever time frame to build that before I launch my campaign?
Yeah, I say 6 months to 18 months. If you're doing it full time, then you can do it in 6 months if you're really just, working it for 6 months. But more realistically, it's going to be a year to 18 months. Really give yourself that amount of time to get everything you need in full swing. Because we're also talking about, in order to launch your campaign, you need a video, you need product photos, and that means you need a sample. And you at least need to have an idea of your materials and your manufacturing. So all of this stuff you're requiring on other people, and usually that means delays. So really allow yourself enough time. And that's why I always say start before you're ready. If you were not going to be ready to launch a Kickstarter campaign until 2020, take a course now. Watch this webinar now. Start doing things now, because at least you're retaining information. You're thinking about the things that you should be working on and really taking those first few steps.
Absolutely. I think one of the most surprising things from what I've seen, and you might have experienced the same thing, one of the most surprising thing that designers or entrepreneurs who are new to the industry kind of shocked by is how long it will take them before they're actually going to have their first product at the hand of their customer.
Yes.
You know, there's this, which I'm not sure really where it's coming from, but many times the assumption that it's, you know, it's sort of like, hey, I'm going to start today, and in 3 months, people are going to spend money on my product. And it's usually, I love that you're saying 6 to 18 months, because, you know, from my perspective, the first season, first of all, your first development of product is going to take longer than anything else.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So there's a lot of things there. You're really kind of building, you know, that ground floor of your building that needs a lot more attention, that needs to hold the whole building down the road. So there's a lot of things that you will put more effort into having them nailed down for the first time. Hopefully, as you go and you have the right partners and the right resources and the right mindset, and you know, there's so many things that goes into it, it becomes easier and faster and a little bit more streamlined. So whether you like it or not, you're looking at it at a long period of time before you really launch the product into market. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Are there things that you would say absolutely not to do in a campaign like that?
I mean, there's sort of things that we've already talked about, like not pricing yourself out, not having too high of a price point, you know, not having an audience to launch to.
Right.
You know, don't underestimate your branding. And one of the things that I see a lot of times that can really hurt brands or campaigns is not having good product photography. I think if you're going to invest in something, make sure your photography is good, because that is what's selling. Like, that's what's selling your stuff. People will read your copy maybe, but most will either watch the video or look at the photos, and they're going to decide in less than 7 seconds if it's a product that they're interested in buying. So product photography is huge and often overlooked.
Yeah. By the way, on the website as well. So regardless if you do crowdfunding, many times you see, you know, website of brands that launch, and the photography is just doesn't make you want to take a second look at it. So there's a big importance to it. Is there sort of like, let me ask you this, like video, like you said, is you know, becomes one of the best, or maybe one of the main tools to use on that. How professional this needs to be?
The video?
Yeah.
So that's a really good question. I would say, like, now the caliber of videos has definitely gone up because there are so many more Kickstarter campaigns and it's more popular. But it's hard to answer this. It needs to be a good video. But it doesn't have to be like the slickest, sexiest. Like, it can be grittier than you would think, because if it's too slick, people are going to think, well, like, do they need my money? You know, like, why aren't they just in business already? So I think really more than how professional it needs to look, you just need to make sure you have a really compelling story. You want to have, you know, you don't want to do this. You don't want to just like talk into the camera. You want to have photography, video of your products. I like voice narration over that instead of just someone talking.
Right.
But I also think the founder story is really important, and talking about you as the founder and making that personal connection is huge. I mean, that's what Kickstarter is all about. So yeah, those would be my main things.
I was wondering if you're, how important it is for you as a founder, as a designer, as the one with the idea, to be part of the video.
Yeah, it's important, especially because you have to think of it as like a grassroots effort. Like, people want to connect with you as the entrepreneur. They love seeing behind the scenes. They love hearing the hero story, you know, like the struggle, all of that. That storytelling component is so important. It's very hard to do well. So you have to write your script once, and then you have to rewrite it. You have to rewrite it again and get feedback from other people. But once you nail it, you'll know, because it will connect with your audience and they'll feel compelled to want to be a part of your brand.
Right. It's funny because I think a lot of the things that you're really mentioning are obviously relate to a successful crowdfunding campaign, but reality, you're going to have to do these things for your business regardless.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing how to tell your story, or knowing what about your story is the things that you need to highlight, how to present it, how to communicate that is, it's just the key of what a successful business nowadays need.
Yes.
So I see that some of you are asking question on the chat. If you guys don't mind, just put the question in the ask question. It'll be easier for us to answer it, because then we can scroll through this, and we'll answer them, once we're done. So that I'm not sure if my next question is sort of like product-wise. Is there products that perform better than others, or products that I would say, don't go into crowdfunding? I know that you mentioned something that has to do with the price point to think of, but I wonder as far as like actual product categories.
I think anything that's like couture or custom isn't going to work. Bridal's not going to work. Evening gowns probably aren't going to work. It's like it needs to be a product that either solves a problem. Well, pretty much anything should be a product that solves a problem. And communicating that problem you're solving is so important, just again, to like your brand story and your messaging.
I agree. I mean, I think the idea that about starting a fashion brand, or honestly any business, when you think about it, when you really kind of water it down, it becomes, hey, what problem in the market I'm trying to solve? And the problem can be as simple as like, hey, there's people who gets up in the morning and need to wear a shirt to work.
Yes, exactly.
It's not like a problem that I'm solving, the financial situation in the world, but it is a problem for a lot of other people. It is a problem. They need to wear something to go to work because this is what they work look like, and this is what they like to wear. So the idea of really kind of like focusing of like, hey, what is the problem that my product is going to solve in the market for my customer is really one of the most important things for you to kind of start thinking when you start a business. So regardless of the crowdfunding.
For sure. And we do that in both of my courses, as we focus on like identifying what the problem is. And I say to people, don't overthink this. Like in most cases, your product is not going to solve world hunger. But there has to be something specific that connects to your audience as just making their life easier or more beautiful or whatever it may be.
Awesome. Do you recommend the few of the Kickstarter campaign that I've seen? Usually have like the product that they're trying to kind of put out there, and then there's like tiers of like secondary product. Many of them are sort of like, promotional items, so like T-shirt or a bag or things like this. Is that something? Yes. Yeah.
No? So.
Depends.
I mean, there's mixed thoughts on this. In one sense, it's a great way. Like, let's say you have like a $30 T-shirt or like a $20 art print, whatever it may be. That's nice to offer for people who either aren't your target market but want to support you, or they can't afford your, the price point of your lowest garment, but they want to support you. But for the most part, the focus is on funding your first production run. That's all we care about. So I don't care if you sell 20 art prints. Then okay, start a business for art prints. What you want to be pre-selling is the garments in your first collection or the signature piece that you're launching. So yes, I mean, you can do it, but I wouldn't put all your focus into it.
Got you. Do you think that a crowdfunding campaign work for established brands, or at least ones who are already in business? Or
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen one of my favorite ethical footwear brands is Nisolo, and they started off as a shoe company, footwear company. They didn't launch with a crowdfunding campaign, but they wanted to start a jewelry line, and so they used Kickstarter to launch their jewelry line. The jewelry line part of their footwear business. So yeah, you can do a Kickstarter campaign as many times as you want. You could launch every collection with Kickstarter. You could be very much established, but just want some, you have a product that you've really been wanting to put into your collection, but you're just not sure if it's going to take off. Kickstarter would be a great way to just test it and see. Yeah.
Cool. And just because we have, some listeners, some sort of all over the world, it's a question that I just thought of. Would Kickstarter or any crowdfunding campaign works internationally?
Yeah, so Kickstarter definitely has expanded to internationally for sure. I don't think it's in every single country, but it's in a lot. So you just have to check the Kickstarter guidelines if it's in your country. But most countries now have like their own version of Kickstarter or their own crowdfunding platform.
Got you.
Yeah.
I have a question about driving traffic to your campaign. Do brands, people spend on ads to drive traffic?
People do, yes. Yeah. That's not something I teach. Okay. I teach organic marketing, but people definitely do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I don't want to tell people like the best way to fund your campaign is to put more money into it because, so the free ways of driving traffic are obviously your email list, again, social media. You can connect with other bloggers. We have this world of Instagram influencers now. You can get them to highlight your product, send samples in advance, and then have them feature you and drive traffic to your campaign. Guest posting, interviews, podcast interviews. Really, it's content marketing is, in my mind, the best way to drive traffic to your campaign.
Cool. Can you share a couple of success stories that you kind of can think of from the last few years?
Sure. I did an Instagram story today featuring two of my past brands, so I'll do them.
Awesome.
One is Sotella. So it is a women's wear brand based on body positivity. And so she started with a Kickstarter campaign and is now actually opening her own vertically integrated production factory in LA. So she's gone from launching in 2016 just a capsule collection on Kickstarter to now opening her own factory. So that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Then the other one is Vetta, Vetta. They launched also a women's wear capsule collection. It was 5 pieces that could make up 30 different outfits. And they set a goal of $30,000, tripled it. They raised nearly $90,000. They won the Saks Emerging Designer Showcase, featured in all these Condé Nast, all the Vogue, all of these amazing media. And have since launched many capsule collections since they launched in 2016 as well, I think.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit how you work with them or about the course. Again, anybody who wants to find out more about the course, underneath the screen, you'll see a green button that can take you to the link for that if you guys want to learn more about it. But yeah, tell us a little bit, whatever you can share with us about the course.
Yeah, so just to clarify, I have one course, Factory 45, that's 6 months. It focuses on supply chain, pre-production, branding, crowdfunding, marketing. That course is closed right now. I only open it once a year. It will open again in May 2019. The course that I'm focusing on now is how to launch a fully funded Kickstarter campaign. So it focuses only on crowdfunding. We do get into branding and marketing quite a bit because that's part of launching a fully funded Kickstarter campaign. But this course is a self-study course. Enrollment will open next week. If you sign up, there's the link below is to a waiting list. So I'll notify you as soon as enrollment's open. And we really start from idea stage to launching your crowdfunding campaign. And like I said at the beginning, there is a money back guarantee. So if you follow the steps of the course and you are not successful in your campaign, I give you your money back on the course.
I love that. I love that. So who is it? You teaching, or do you have somebody else who kind of?
It's me. So it's all
Okay.
self-study. So videos, there are interviews, action steps, to-do lists, everything is right there so that you can take it at the pace that works for you, on the time schedule that works for you. And again, you have lifetime access to it. So you can, let's say you're one of those people who isn't going to launch until 2020. Take the course now, because you can just, again, start absorbing information, doing your research, learning, and then being able to apply that. You can go back to the action steps later and start implementing when you have more time.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask really if I need to be ready for it to push go, or is it something that I can take and kind of go back to? Because I do think that, many times these courses is especially something like that, I would think will give you an idea of really not just specifically about my crowdfunding campaign, but will probably enlighten me about, what I want to do in my business, or maybe kind of think about my business model a little bit differently, yes, or affect it or plan around it, and kind of, have that contribute to how I'm planning my business, the launch of my business.
Yeah. Because so much of, like I said, so much of having a successful campaign is about doing the marketing up front. So that's really where we start. We start with building a landing page, building your email list, doing your branding, content marketing. So it's so much more than a course about creating a Kickstarter. It's really a marketing course that will take you to raising money for your first production run.
Awesome. I love it. And obviously money guarantees, or really you guys have nothing to lose. Well, honestly, you have success stories only, so that makes me want to start a business now and have a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, let's add that to your list of things to do.
Exactly. Maybe, what is it now? 1:43. I'll start this at 3:00 to eat before. Awesome. So, anybody has some questions? I see some questions. I'm going to open sort of like the conversation to anybody else who have questions. I see that some of you decided to put the question in the chat, so I'm going to try to go through this. By the way, if anybody wants to kind of join us and talk to us and ask a question, like where we can see you and talk to you, and maybe this way we can have a bit more of a conversation, please let me know. That I'd love to do that as well. So let me browse through the question here. So Danielle is asking, do I need to be ready to fill orders before I do Kickstarter? If so, can you assist with pattern maker samples production? Okay, this is a different question, but I'm assuming the answer is not. Meaning,
with Factory 45, we do that. With this course, it's just you don't need. That's the whole thing. You don't need inventory now. That's what this is all about. Is creating a Kickstarter campaign is about funding your inventory. So you don't need to fill orders before you do your Kickstarter. I do suggest having your sourcing lined up, having some fabric options, because you need to be ready. Once your Kickstarter is funded, you need to be ready to go into production. So that means having a factory lined up and your patterns and samples done. But yeah, the crowdfunding factory is just a course about marketing and raising money for your crowdfunding campaign.
What you just said actually led me to think about another question. Is there sort of like a time frame, whether it's suggested or it works better for me to deliver goods to the customer? In other words, if I had a campaign and I know it's going to take me 3 months to make the product, is that sustainable? Would customers wait for it?
Yeah. So what you want to keep in mind is, like, if you are launching a summer collection and you want to deliver in the summer, that means you need to probably launch your Kickstarter in February or March. But you want to do it in a way where people aren't if you live in Boston or New York, people aren't thinking about like shorts in February or March. So you need to do it. You would have to do that in your messaging, in your branding, in your storytelling. But yes, that's something you need to think about. And it's like, people are concerned, like, oh, nobody's going to want to wait 3 months. They do now. Pre-ordering is so common. You see it. I don't know, I just read this article this morning about some fast fashion brand doing pre-ordering. Like, so this is a thing, and it's not something that I would necessarily worry about.
Very much. Danielle has a follow-up question, just to kind of repeat some of the information you had, asking, can you repeat about the 6-month program, your Factory 45, I'm assuming, and when that opens again?
Yeah, so if you go to factory45.co, all of the information is there. There's a whole course outline, and it's an application process, so applications will open in May 2019. We are currently in the middle of the 2018 program.
Awesome. And this is just for someone to understand, it's 6 months where they work with you on a regular basis, and you're kind of walking them throughout the whole process of starting from an idea to launch.
Yes. Yeah. I have office hours every day. We have a Facebook group calls. That it's much more of a commitment and a higher intensive involvement than, let's say, the Crowdfunding Factory is self-study. So that's very much on your own time. And you can, do it when it's convenient for you. And,
I think one of the first time that you and I spoke, I remember telling me how intense Factory 45 program is, and how it's really, at this point, you can only do it once a year because it requires so much into it.
Yes, exactly.
Really, it's a demanding program.
Yes, by the time December rolls around, I'm like, oh goodness, I need to decompress here, because I spend 6 months helping everyone launch their own companies. So then I spend the other 6 months focusing on marketing my company.
That's awesome. We do have another question from Larry, and he's asking, interesting, what if your customers are major retailers and you already have some relationships to them? Is this a good vehicle for that? The initial production numbers could be large and expensive. So I think what he's asking is if this would work just direct to customer, or would it work for retailers as well?
Definitely direct to consumer. Pre-ordering can work really well with retailers if you have those relationships and they're willing to do that. But this is more of a direct to customer.
So I think, some of the highlights for me about crowdfunding that I love is the fact that it gives you the opportunity, and you said it, and it's one of really the things that you sort of talking about all the time, is that it really gives you the opportunity to test the market with your product.
Exactly.
So, and not just to test it, but test it in a minimal risk, which, there's not much opportunities to do that. If you, for example, a brand who goes direct to customer, or that's part of your business model, you will need to go and produce product. Even if you'll do some pre-sale, you're still going to have to commit to a number that now you're going to have to sell somehow.
Yeah.
That platform gives you the opportunity to kind of generate that, get the money to sponsor this first production, and really test the market with customers and orders on hand, which I think is incredible. It's kind of like the future of what business is.
Yeah, it should be, I think, how it all works, because I come from a background in sustainability. So from a sustainability standpoint, it's not good to just have sitting inventory in a warehouse or a basement that's not going to be sold ever. So wasteful. So this way, at least you know that you have a customer at the end of the line who is going to receive your product, wear it, love it, hopefully. And that's just better for everyone.
I agree. There's so many reasons as to why you don't want to invest in an inventory, and just, sustainability is one way, financially is another thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, a third thing that I always think of, it's the mental part. Because if I'm sitting now and I have all this inventory and I have to figure out a way to move it, this is my focus. This is what I'm doing now. My business is went aside. I'm not thinking about my business as a business. I'm only focusing on how am I going to move this merchandise so I can get money to move with my business. So there's a million reasons. Those three are I think the bigger ones as to, why you want to have that ability. And quite frankly, and I've seen it before, where, you go into this business with a lot of motivation and momentum, and then having inventory that is sitting there that is not sold, mentally, it's just not a space you want to be in.
No one wants to be in that position.
Exactly. So yeah, I love that idea. Anybody else has any other questions for Shannon about crowdfunding, about any of her programs? Again, if anybody wants to find out more about the Crowdfund Factory, you can click below the green button and it will take you to the page where you can find out more about it, sign up to the mailing list, and work with Shannon, because as you can see, she's an expert in that field. It looks like everybody is good. So
you just asked all the right questions, Boaz.
I guess
you
so.
read their minds.
I guess so. Well, the truth is, I asked most of these questions and I wrote a lot of these answers down because I was really interested and curious to know about it. And it's, it kind of opens a whole new way to run a business or start a business, which I love because, you and I work with a lot of startups, with a lot of young brands. And one of the most challenging things for them is really to, how do I launch this with minimal risk? And one thing that I just gonna add as well that I think has a lot of value to a campaign like that is that it might not be highlighted as much as that it is an opportunity for you to create a buzz for your brand.
Huge.
Meaning you're sort of like forced to now drive traffic.
Yes.
What is the way that you're going to do it is up to you, but you need to make this happen in a certain amount of time, and it's kind of force you to put it out there. And especially if it's successful, the result of having a successful campaign, what it does to you personally as a business person who's starting something and has the first win out there already, and something that you can kind of go, because I would think that it's one of the things that you would want to highlight in your marketing. Hey, I my first line was a successful Kickstarter campaign or whatever crowdfunding campaign, right?
Yeah, and I also, so much of marketing is still word of mouth, which is crazy. But, we do live in this online world, but word of mouth, when someone tells you about, go to this person's online shop and look at the garments they have, okay, you'll go, you'll browse it, you'll maybe bookmark it, save it for later. But with a crowdfunding campaign, there's an end. There's a finite period of time. There's only 30 days or 35 days for the campaign. So if you want something, there is incentive to pre-order or purchase now. And that's not something you get just by being on a regular e-commerce shop.
That's true. It's sort of like, I kind of like it because it's sort of like push you into like push the customer to act and push you to act. By the way, as we talk about, just one other question that popped into my head. Is there like, for example, if I take a 30 days campaign, is it sort of like, hey, there's going to be a momentum in the beginning and there might be a dead time in between and maybe another push at the end? Is there
always
sort of like a formula like that?
Yes, I talk about this in my course because people get so freaked out. I call it the plateau. So you're going to have upward momentum in the beginning, and then you're going to plateau, and then hopefully you're going to have upward momentum at the end because, again, like there's a deadline. People wait till the last minute. But don't be afraid of the plateau. It's going to happen. Even our campaign, tripled its goal, and we still had a plateau. So in that time, you have to be prepared to have a marketing strategy in place to keep momentum up, to keep going.
That's awesome.
Good point.
That definitely trains you to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of like your life and business.
Oh my God.
There's
Yeah.
to be time where you have momentum, and then it's sort of like, hey, am I doing something wrong? Why no one's listening, responding to me?
Yeah.
But the truth is, that period of time is where you plan your next jump.
Yep.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you very, very much.
Yeah. I just also want to give everyone a little treat. If you do sign up to the course from this webinar, enter the code WEB100 and you'll get $100 off the course. So instead of $497, it will be $397. So I just thought of that. I'll just give that all to you.
That's awesome, because I just saw
the question.
Alexandria asked that question about. So let me just repeat it. The full price is $475.
$497.
$497. Sorry.
That's okay.
But you're gonna offer our crowd $100 coupon, which we will send you in the follow-up email. So anybody who wants to cash on this, you'll have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll type it into the chat right now for everyone.
Cool.
The code's WEB100.
Awesome. So WEB100 is your code to save $100 on your crowdfunding course.
Yeah.
Shannon, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
That was super informative.
I'm glad. Thanks everyone for joining.
I enjoyed it. Thank you everybody for joining us. And we will see you next time. I'll send a follow-up email with some of the stuff that we spoke on. Good luck everybody, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.